All right, so I'm going to talk to you about drafting the annotations for the annotated bibliography. We don't have a peer review for this one because it's not really a paper. Excuse me. It's a collection of resources. So the peer review tends to be a little redundant, although it does help to have an additional space to draft and get feedback. I think you'll be okay if you just kind of look at the drafting activity for this particular unit and major assignment as more of a first page draft slash peer review. It's a little bit more in depth than maybe the first page draft review of the rhetorical analysis of a scientific article that you completed in the first unit. So again, for this particular discussion, you want to post a couple annotations. You want to have a short introduction to your annotated bib. It can be a paragraph, but just think of it like this. What is the bib doing? What did you do to, collect research? What's the question it's built around? You just need a short paragraph. Imagine handing it to someone that is not in the course and they need to understand what the collection of resources is doing and what it's built around. So the main question for this annotated bib and the final paper project is essentially what is writing doing in the scientific community I'm examining. So if you're a biologist, geologist, whatever it is, you're looking at your community and asking how do they use writing? How do they function as a discourse community? What are all of the things that they're doing to communicate and share ideas? Thinking of writing in a lot of different ways, right? Like we tried to use the primary resource activity as a way to show you that writing occurs in a lot of different spaces inside a community, not just the articles and the publications. So again, this annotated bib and this draft assignment is asking you to start putting together some of those annotations. So, a short little intro that basically says, this annotated bib is built around this research question I'm investigating, how writing works in this community, tell us what the community is, and then you can start setting up your annotations and kind of follow the form that you've been given examples of. Those are just models, but that should give you an idea of how to set up the citation and then the annotation, which is a summary, and then the commentary, which is just a couple sentences that explains how are you going to use that source to answer your question. Don't need to know exactly how you're going to do that, but you should have an idea. Like, for example, if you used a handbook as a primary source and you're trying to explain its value in relation to answering this question about how writing works, you would need to say something specific about that. I provided a link for drafting up primary research materials because sometimes that's a little tricky. The citations are sometimes a little tricky. Just do your best. Remember, this assignment asks you to cite sources correctly. I won't take off a lot of points, but I'll take off a little because, again, this assignment is specifically slated to work on and assess your citation abilities per general education requirements and the AW2 academic writing 2 curriculum requirements. But don't stress, just do your best. Again, the most important part is the quality of your sources, the quality of those summaries. But again, you got to practice citing, do your best, use the citation style format that is associated with your discipline, or use APA as a fallback. I've provided you a link to Purdue OWL, which will give you several examples of citation formats and citation styles. Use those. You should also still be collecting research. Remember, these last two activities generated some source material for your annotated bib, but it certainly didn't generate all of it. So again, you need at least 2 secondary sources about writing in the sciences. I had you all access at least one for the previous discussion. So make sure that over the weekend and into the beginning of next week, before the bib is due, you're looking for source materials, get maybe some more primary research materials, go back and look at your primary research materials that you have already collected, start to think about them a little bit more critically. Use the article by Dan Melzer on Discourse Community. He's got all those questions that if you use those questions to think about your source materials, it will generate content for your paper. And then your final paper is using this research to answer that question in an MRAD format. So you'll say, hey, this is the introduction, this is what I'm essentially doing. And then you'll have a little methods that says, I collected some primary source materials, I collected some secondary source materials, I put together an annotated bibliography, I analyzed all these sources, and then this is what I essentially learned and the results, and this is kind of what we can take away from that. So again, you're working on the annotated bib. This annotation draft assignment is designed to basically get your annotations going and moving forward, and getting your annotated bib basically, started and basically underway so that you can turn it in mid next week. All right, hopefully this gives you a little bit better understanding of the annotations and the assignments. And if you need anything, please just let me know. I'm here to help you.